My name is Brian Butler, and I'm a community organizer and a policy advocate for green action for health and environmental justice. We are all currently standing on one of the most contaminated sites in the United States of America. For many decades, the low-income and people of color community here in Bayview, Hunters Point, have been dumped on and polluted, and too many have suffered illness and death from the environmental racism and injustice that has harmed this beautiful community. Unfortunately, this environmental racism continues even today. Today you will hear from former shipyard workers who are joining together for the first time to warn residents about the radioactive and toxic threat and the cover-up at the Hunters Point Shipyard Superfund site. We are also here to announce, with the help of the Golden Gate University Environmental Law and Justice Clinic and the attorney of the Whistleblowers, Green Action is filing a formal petition to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, calling on them to revoke the license for a major federal contractor, Tetra Tech, due to their falsification of radioactive soil samples and other improper actions here at the shipyard. And we believe this has put the community and the entire San Francisco Bay in imminent risk. We take this action because City Hall and state and federal agencies have failed to protect the community and environment, and instead seem to be protecting the giant corporation that hopes to build thousands of luxury townhomes at the shipyard site despite massive contamination. I would now like to introduce Attorney David Anton.
Thank you. I'm an attorney. I represent the people who have been brave enough to come forward and inform the public of the cheating that Tetra Tech has taken at Hunters Point. What we have found, and the whistleblowers have disclosed, is that at least since 2006, virtually every step of the radioactive cleanup at Hunters Point was a fraud. We'll be hearing from a number of the whistleblowers. One of them, Robert McLean, will describe that back in 2005 and 2006, Tetra Tech was ordering and turning up the dial so that none of the soil being processed that was laced with contamination from radioactivity would actually be sensed and identified as radioactivity. Throughout the time, not just soil samples, but scans and every single step since 2006, Tetra Tech defrauded and cheated on what was going on. And they did it for profit. This is purely a profit over health issue. Soil that was radioactive was pulled out of the ground and put right back into Hunters Point. Radioactive soil pulled out of the ground and also shipped throughout Northern California, falsely labeled as clean. People who have gotten this soil, landfills, people who have businesses of getting soil for backfill, had no idea they were getting radioactive soil that Tetra Tech was spreading that was at Hunters Point. The EPA, the NRC, and the California have done nothing, absolutely nothing, to find where that soil went, have it tested, and let those people know who got that soil, they too might be at risk. right here where all these buildings are being built, the Navy knows that there were samples taken with incredibly high, dangerous levels of cesium on Parcel A, where houses are built and right next to where a commercial kitchen was built. The Navy has taken the position, oh, that was fallout from tests 50, 60 years ago. Well, if that was the case, those cesium levels would have been all over Hunter's Point throughout the site. Never did they get cesium readings throughout the site at 2 to 3 picocuries, 20 times the health level that the Navy set. That's what they found on Parcel A. And what did the Navy do? Nothing. They've kept it secret. People who are buying houses on Parcel A, the commercial kitchen behind us that was built, all that is right where that incredibly dangerous cesium is. What has the Navy decided to do? The Navy has, through these wonderful brochures, have said, we will use the data from Tetra Tech to decide what was wrong. The data from Tetra Tech is entirely corrupt and false. The Navy is basing its investigation on the fraud of Tetra Tech. It can never have a real investigation and a real cleanup based on this fraud. What they need to do is talk to people just like those who are behind me, talk to the workers who were involved in the fraud, find out what fraud was taking place, and then test and sample based on reality, not based on Tetra Tech's fraud. The Navy has fought at virtually every step a real look at the contamination at Hunter's Point. They want to ignore that Tetra Tech throughout Hunter's Point put radioactive soil back in the ground and sent it throughout Northern California when they were shipping it out. Now I'd like to have some of the people who have been brave enough to report and blow the whistle on Tetra Tech come. Art Jar, very long-term experienced radiation technician with years of experience. What did you experience?
Tetra Tech viewed those of us that were professionals to find the radioactive material to ignore it, or to ignore it.
Art, when you worked there, shown the door.
I reported to one of the Tetra Tech supervisors. The particular employee, a girlfriend of one of the Tetra Tech supervisors, had no business handling radioactive material, had no background in it. They were using her to direct kids, young laborers, to handle it. And I said, it's got to stop. And I said, it's got to stop now. I said, if it doesn't stop now, I need to talk to the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And about a day and a half later, I was told, adios. Simple, simple.
And those laborers that you saw, what concern did you, if any, did you have for them?
Well, as I say, they were mostly kids, and not that that should make any difference, but they didn't have the proper protective equipment. They didn't know how to sample radioactive material such that it would not damage them. And of course, they were creating more airborne, so that material was going off-site. Just a terrible situation.
Thank you.
Can you tell us your name again, sir?
Last name spelling is J-A-H-R. First name Arthur.
Robert McLean, would you come up?
Hello, I'm Robert McLean, radiation control technician. I worked out here at Hunters Point 05. I worked on a belt that they use to check for radioactive materials. While I was working out here, I noticed that the belt sometimes would run faster than it's supposed to run. When the belt ran faster than it's supposed to run, you couldn't properly use the belt to see radioactive material. Management here was kind of production driven. They didn't like us running the belt at the correct speed. They wanted to run it faster so they could get the soil moved. I saw confrontations between my management and the Tetra Tech management about the speed of the belt. I was told by Tetra Tech officials, management, that I didn't know what I was doing. I have 25 years of experience in the nuclear power business, power plants, DOE, and just commercial jobs such as this. Watching the work go on is scary because we're doing a cleanup for future generations. So you're cleaning up an area that children are going to play on, babies going to play on. We're trying to replace this soil with clean soil. Children put stuff in their mouth. You got radium, cesium, they're cancer, they cause cancer. Because it seeks that material, it seeks to be in your body. That material seeks certain parts of your body. Some of them's bone seekers. The people that they put in charge, they didn't have enough experience to being in charge, and they were Tetra Tech flunkies. It's awful. You can't allow them to just put contaminated material if you care about the generation to follow. I don't have much.
Can you spell your last name, please?
McLean, first name Robert, R-O-B-E-R.
I have a question. How long ago was this until you recognized that situation was going on up until now?
I've recognized that situation immediately. I was out here originally for 3 months, and it brought me back for maybe 2 months of next year. But I also worked at Treasure Island, which has its own problems going on. The problems that at Treasure Island are echoing what's happening here. So I need to get on top of it, because if you don't, the same problem when they started erecting homes over there, you were running the same issue. You still got people living on some areas of Treasure Island, if I'm correct, that's contaminated. Some areas of Treasure Island haven't been checked. They need to be checked.
Were you bullied by Tetra Tech to keep quiet, and were the other workers as well bullied and harassed by Tetra Tech?
Tetra Tech management would come out and bully is a good word. And yes, we were bullied. We was threatened. Like I say, they say you didn't know what you was doing. The management would jump in the truck, speed off in a cloud of dust to bring our management back. Yeah, a cloud of dust. Bring our management back to tell them that we didn't know what we was doing. I'm a big guy, but one of the managers for Tetra Tech, he was a bigger guy. Some people were intimidated. Like I said, I only stayed out here for 3 months. At that juncture, then I came for another 2 months. And when I came back for those months, they had took the entire belt down. That process was stopped because they realized that it wasn't working at all.
Can you tell us why you're coming forward now?
Well, I came forward earlier. Nothing really came of it. I'm here now because with children. I can say it like that. I got grandchildren. I wouldn't want them to move. I can tell you, I wouldn't want my grandchildren to stay out here. Point blank. I want them to stay on this property because my grandbaby, smaller, she puts everything that she can in her mouth. And that's me.
So wait, what year were you here working?
05, the fall and the spring. And I worked at Treasure Island 07 and 08.
Oh, sorry, you're saying that the second time you were here, Tetra Tech had stopped testing the soil?
Yeah, they stopped where they wasn't using the building anymore, but they were doing walkovers.
What's that? Yeah,
sprayed the soil, either sprayed the soil out, they didn't do that right either. They were supposed to spray it to a certain layer, or the soil was being shaped inside the buckets. You can't shake soil.
Explain what the buckets are.
The buckets for the backhoe or for the front loaders. They'd fill these up with soil, and then we would scan those. Now our instruments could only see maybe 3 inches deep into the soil, checking for the commodities, but the buckets themselves were shielding for the commodities. So that wasn't a good thing to do. You couldn't justify releasing soil if you couldn't see what's in the bottom of the bucket.
Thank you. Archie.
Yes, I worked at Hunter's Point from approximately 2004 to 2011. And they had a bad culture there, bad work practices, and a lot of people that were in charge, as the other techs both said, they didn't have proper training, sampling, and that's why we're here today. False soil sampling, bad management, and so forth.
And Archie, did you personally observe any of the false soil sampling?
Yes, I did.
Tell them about it.
Yes, they had one lady here that they inventoried some samples after they came out in the field, and she directed 2 of the laborers to go out and just retrieve soil samples from anywhere.
And how is that wrong?
That's wrong because you don't just retrieve from anywhere. You're supposed to go by your paperwork. And look over your paperwork and see where soil samples, inventory your soil samples.
Where on the shipyard were you working mostly? Where at the property? The whole thing?
I did base wide, and
Explain to them what that is.
base wide. That's more like work the whole site, doing routine, incoming, outgoing surveys, and surveying trucks in and out.
Does that include the parcel where the construction is now going on? Yes. Yeah. Do you see any soil sample baking there where the first phase is being built?
The soil sampling that occurred was what I witnessed was at RSY2. RSY.
Do you think that they conspired, possibly criminally conspired, to cover up the actual dangers of the radioactive material at this site?
Yes.
How?
Because if you're taking false soil sampling, that's not right. I mean, it's wrong.
Archie, in your opinion, is Parcel A safe for human habitation?
A lot of the areas that's supposed to be cleaned up are not cleaned up properly.
Did you take any cell phone video or document this in any way? Did anyone here that's a whistleblower take any cell phone video or have some evidence you can share with us today of your documentation of these claims?
I
Is there a reason you didn't, or anyone, any of the whistleblowers here?
There's video of Treasure Island.
that they took?
No, someone else did it, but it's also Lennar.
For the people that are here who are served for you, the attorney, can anyone speak to? It's something our viewers will ask.
Sure.
Right? They'll want to see that evidence. Is there a reason nobody took cell phone video or documented this in some way?
One of the most amazing pieces of evidence is that throughout Hunter's Point, in the areas they were supposed to be testing properly, the soil has a fingerprint or a DNA where you can tell all sorts of chemicals in the soil. And so what happened at Hunter's Point is kind of a three-stage process. First is they took samples to find out if there was radioactivity in the area. That seems to have been done correctly. Then there's a second stage where samples are taken as they're cleaning up. You know, they pull dirt out, and they were supposed to be getting the highest radioactivity. Again, those samples exist. But what the cheating was, is Tetra Tech wouldn't get paid 40% until it was cleaned up. And so they had to take samples that showed there was no longer radioactivity that was dangerous, that was above health levels. And so they had to take samples, and they were supposed to take them from the places that they scanned and had the highest radioactivity readings, and those had to come below the health level. That's where all the cheating happened, because Tetra Tech wanted to get paid. Now, how is that a thumbprint? Well, what happens is when you take soil from here, and then you take it again, and you take it again, the basic soil has a thumbprint or a DNA. You can tell that this soil has a basic makeup. But the radioactivity is supposed to be gone. What the actual evidence is, over 2,500 samples that we've been able to find, the thumbprint changes totally on the third sample. The thumbprint is as if her DNA is switched for mine. There's no way that soil came from the same area.
So you're saying that the soil DNA of those final samples does not match the DNA of the soils here?
Absolutely correct. It is so different. There is absolutely no way the soil came from those same areas. And we're talking broad areas. For example, what the Navy caught, and Tetra Tech is now admitted, because these samples are so dramatically different. I hate to get into too much detail, but there's a thing called potassium 40. It's one of the DNA thumbprints. Potassium 40 at Hunter's Point is generally 8 to 15 when you do a lab sample. 8 to 15 throughout Hunter's Point, except for two spots where historically somebody brought in fill and put buildings on top of it so there's no radiation. Those two spots have potassium 40 at 0.5 to 0.2. And those come from the old movie theater foundation and where some palm trees are. That's where they got the fake soil from when they were cheating. So they knew that stuff was clean, had no radioactivity in it because they tested it over time. So they went and they took samples from where they were supposed to, then ditched the samples because they wanted to make it look like they were doing the right thing. They went out to the theater and got the soil from the theater and put it in the sample jars. Those records absolutely prove the samples, thousands of them, were faked.
Do you think the district...
Have been constructed on this property already? How many homes are constructed on this property right now? And how many homes are planned that will simply not pass the muster of enough non-radioactivity to be safe.
That is one of the saddest things about this situation right now. One of the whistleblowers who was not able to make it today, Anthony Smith, took samples on parcel A that showed dangerous levels of cesium. And that has been, the Navy has tried to fool people that that is not an issue. It's 15 to 30 times what the Navy, when they were doing this for a cleanup, said is the health safety level. The health safety level was 0.1 for cesium. You couldn't have more cesium, otherwise you had to clean it up. And that sample came out 15 to 30 times more. And every one of these properties, the Navy has refused to test them for the cesium because they don't want to know the results. All of a sudden, this project is in big trouble if cesium is tested for around here and it comes out like that sample did. They have for a year. 1 year ago today, Anthony Smith came and showed the Navy and the EPA and the NRC where that sample was taken. And since that year, the Navy has kept it quiet, has allowed a commercial kitchen to be built on it, and has allowed these houses to continue to be built, all knowing that there's potentially very dangerous cesium throughout the area.
Do you think the District Attorney, Gacon, and California Attorney General Xavier Becerra should be doing an investigation, a criminal investigation about the conspiracy, what you're alleging, conspiracy to cover up the radioactive material at this site?
One of the things we hope from this is that the Navy, the EPA, the NRC, the State Attorney General, all decide a real investigation needs to be conducted, and it should be on two levels. It should be what needs to be cleaned up, where was the cheating, how do we take care of that, and should these people who did this, who worked for 6 years at least, manipulating fraud, should they be criminally responsible? People's lives and health are at risk here. And the Navy and Tetra Tech have turned their back on these people who live here and who will buy here. The radium contamination that's throughout Hunters Point has a half-life of 1,600 years. It's dangerous for 1,600 years plus. And it's that radium and cesium have just been put right back into the ground and have been kept right there and spread throughout Northern California. Nobody has been looking at where that soil was shipped off has gone. Nobody. And that's wrong. And one of the things we're hoping is it'll finally be looked into. I'd like to ask Bert Bowers to come up.
My name's Bert Bowers. I had a tenure here at Hunters Point for just under 10 years, about 3 months short of 10 years. My role here when I first arrived was as a field technician, and later on a supervisor. After that, a report writer, generating results of field activities that would go to the Navy for approval, for presentation to the regulatory entities needed to make determinations as to final disposition of the areas of concern within the site. Okay. Later on, I also assumed the role of radiation safety officer. I was the radiation safety officer representative for this site. I was obligated and bound by a federal document referred to as an NRC license, Nuclear Regulatory Commission materials license, and was authorization to correctly handle and process licensed radioactive material known to exist on this site. Okay, I filled the role of radiation safety officer for 2 different companies. The first one was New World Environmental, and then later on for Tetra Tech directly, after they had secured a license themselves. One of the things that I want to clarify that was asked earlier about video footage, pictures taken, things like that, before I forget. Everybody that works on this site, all of the technicians, as they drove into this site at the entrance, there was a big sign posted that clearly stated the use of cameras, video footage, things like that was strictly prohibited. Okay, so that's why you're not going to see that. Also, at morning safety tailgate meetings, safety managers would repeatedly remind people, no use of those cell phones. If you use your cell phone, if you're caught doing it, you're off the project. That was because of the production-driven mentality that was being used out there, especially in the last few years that we were all present. The concern that I have, the point that I want to stress to everyone here today or anyone that sees this, is this. It's very simple. Okay, as a rad safety officer, I'm obligated and I'm bound to that NRC license. That's a federal document that's considered LAW, law. I have no leeway, I have no wiggle room other than to ensure compliance with that document, the spirit of the document. To do that, at its peak at this site, I had a staff of over 120 people. We had, at its peak, 4 different major contracts going on at the same time. I had a supervisory staff. I had to trust them to be my eyes and ears in the field, but also the technicians. Not only them, but also the workers, even the laborers that were doing their tasks in the field under oversight of people like these. Everyone from my level to the field laborers, we were bound by that NRC license, and specifically a document in the Codes of Federal Regulations, 10 CFR 20, a document referred to as NRC Form 3. Now, in the radiological world, when you talk about NRC Form 3, if there's anywhere in this country licensed activities taking place, you're mandated by those codes to post that NRC Form 3 at various high traffic areas throughout the site. The reason I'm emphasizing it, if you go online and you Google NRC Form 3, just that, it will come up, and you will see what everyone across this country of ours is obligated to if they're working at a commercial nuclear power plant, if they're working at an environmental cleanup site, even at hospitals where radioactive materials are used. If it involves the use of an NRC license, everyone is bound by NRC Form 3. What these gentlemen observed, and anyone else that observed in the field, if it was contrary to the spirit of the license, they are obligated by NRC Form 3 to come forward and address the safety concern in an attempt to seek resolution. Now, one of the things that happens when that's the case, if someone would come into my office, the first question, because it's also detailed on that Form 3, you're encouraged to exhaust all avenues available to you through your employer first in addressing and resolving safety issues. In the field, and also at morning meetings, I always emphasize to folks, do a walk down of your area before you leave for the day. Verify everything is secure. Okay? But also, if you have an issue, come to me. I'd liked at the time to have thought that I had an open door policy. I thought that in the conduct of my work, I felt like I was approachable, but obviously that was not the case. Okay, but in the instances where people did come to me, the first thing I would ask them to ensure compliance with that Form 3 was the people or the persons that you had issues with, have you approached them first to seek to resolve the issue? If they said they had not, then I gave them a choice. Then you can resolve it directly with them, and we can all come together and address it that way. In many instances, They said they had resolved it. Bottom line is, we have to exhaust all those avenues before the NRC encourages us to come to them. That's what I had to do when I was removed from the project. I had to exhaust all avenues through my employer at that time, which didn't take long, by the way, before I was in a position where I could address my concerns with the NRC and EPA. But to change the focus at this point, why are we here? We talk about radionuclides, radioactive contamination, radium, cesium, strontium. What's the concern with it? Well, put it in perspective. Everyone remembers the time frame when there was an Ebola outbreak and people from foreign countries were flying into the U.S. and then it spread throughout the U.S. They got people's attention, right? CDC and whoever. But you look at the radionuclides here at Hunters Point, in a document referred to as the Historical Radiological Assessment Manual, the HRA Manual. It details a history of operations that took place at this site since its inception. It also identifies the contaminants that we may encounter here. Specifically, the radioactive contaminants, there's a group that the Navy acknowledges do exist or are likely to exist that totals well over 30. If you look at international tables that identify the radionuclides in existence worldwide, they classify these radionuclides by level of toxicity. When we talk about toxicity, we're talking about poison. You look it up in Webster, it's a poison. My point at this stage is, just like Ebola virus spores would concern people that not even find in the mouth or in the soil, if you have the three predominant contaminants here being radium-226, cesium-137, and strontium-90, look it up. This is not me just pulling something out of my rear pocket. This is something that's in international and also national documents that's recognized at universities like Stanford, their website, different Department of Energy sites that work with radioactive materials. Getting back to radium-226, that is considered in the very high toxicity classification. There's not that many that fall in that classification, but radium-226 does. And unfortunately here at Hunters Point is also the predominant contaminant of concern that we consistently see present. My concern, since my tenure was abruptly brought to an end, is how much time has gone by, okay, since we started seeing these revelations. I was removed from this site in 2011, January of 2011. Okay, by the time I notified the NRC of what was happening, since 2011, during the rainy season especially, how much rain do you think has fallen on this place? How much water has moved over these soils? And most importantly, how much contaminant migration has occurred since 2011? At that point in time. Since 2011, other people have come forward, okay? Based on what they're saying and what was being covered up, it even further demands the answer. Where's the action? Where's the action required?
Have you contacted Congresswoman Pelosi?
I'm sorry?
Have you contacted Congresswoman Pelosi? I mean, $600 million of federal money has gone in to remediate this site. $600 million of our taxpayers.
Yeah.
Okay, Congresswoman Pelosi, is she aware of the cover-up, potential criminal cover-up, and the retaliation against you and other whistleblowers for trying to do your job, Congresswoman Pelosi?
I can simply rely on the news outlets and what's been put out there to date, but also the regulatory entities, and do they communicate to one another and run it up the ladder? Did I speak with her directly? No, I never have.
Did you try to contact her office?
Her and the others will be available after the press conference if you'd like to talk with them directly. I think we're now having Steve Castleman from the Golden Gate University.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Castleman. I'm a visiting associate professor at Golden Gate University Law School and a staff attorney at the Environmental Law and Justice Clinic at Golden Gate University Law School. This morning we filed a petition seeking the revocation of Tetra Tech's Nuclear Regulatory Commission license. It is a 41-page document that details the fraud that took place out here. Now, Tetra Tech admitted to doing some sample fraud. We agree with them. They did do sample fraud. But we also know that they did a lot of other frauds that they have not admitted to. We know that their soil remediation was flawed. We know that their employees were bullied and were told that if they didn't do what they were told to do, no matter how long it was, that they would be fired. Now, we assigned 4 law students from the Golden Gate University Law School to investigate this. And 4 law students, over the course of 1 semester, came up with the information that's in this document. I encourage you to read it, because it sets forth exactly what took place out here and how wrong it was. If 4 law students, over the course of 1 semester, could find this out, where has the Navy been? Why hasn't the Navy done a proper investigation? We investigated some of these gentlemen and some of the other former employees. That's what needs to be done. It is incumbent upon the Navy and the NRC to investigate this by trying to contact as many employees as they can find, because it's the employees like these gentlemen who know what took place and where it took place. Without knowing what took place and where it took place, the cleanup is compromised.
Is there any party to this, whether it's the Navy, whether it is the city, whether it is the contractors, whether it is the home builder, that's unaware of this, who could have any rational cover to say that they have no knowledge of anything?
No, I don't see how anybody could say they have no knowledge at this point. The Tetra Tech admitted that they did some sample fraud back in 2014, I believe. And so it's been a matter of public record for a number of years now.
So how can it be that these houses are under construction?
Well, I want to be very clear about Parcel A. The Parcel A cesium sample that our whistleblower took is from a lower elevation than these homes are. It is down the hill and near what David said was the commercial kitchen. It is not really close to the housing. However, we don't know how far the cesium has contaminated.
Do you have a map of Parcel A?
Yes. If you go to our Dropbox site, all of the supporting documents, the petition, and all of the supporting documents, here, including maps, are there at Dropbox, and we can give you the address. So my point is, it is incumbent upon the Navy to do a proper investigation, which they have never done, because they have never sought the former employees, the kind of people that we spoke to.
How many homes are in Parcel A or other human-occupied structures?
I don't know.
Are we talking a few, or are we talking many?
I don't know. I don't know how many homes there are.
So Parcel A is where the kitchen is.
Kitchen is down the hill from the
What area is this?
This is Parcel A where they're building. This is the top of the hill where they're building.
Got it.
The Parcel A sample that we are talking about is down there.
You're saying that you only test within 3 inches of the soil, correct?
We only tested about 6 inches down one time. And
But that was down lower.
that was down in the lower.
So obviously they wouldn't test up here.
Maybe too far.
Tetra Tech worked there.
Right.
So people won't trust that.
Right.
Having admitted fraud, how can you rely on any of their data? All of their data is compromised. So again, 4 law students did this work. You did a great job, and we appreciate it. We thank you.
Just for a second. There was a question about where things are. Can you help me hold this? Thank you. So,
Up close, at least in front of it.
all right, so there were questions about where this is. The fraud took place everywhere that you see. Trenches were dug up because during the 40 years that the radioactive laboratories, secret laboratories ran here, the Navy poured radioactive material down the drains. It impacted all the drains, and the drains here all broke. And all that radioactivity leached out through the drains. So the whole drain system, sewers and storm drains, were contaminated. That's why all the trenching happened. And that happened all around here. Parcel A is this area right here. The sample that was taken with the high cesium was right here on the edge of Parcel A. But what do we know? We know that this place is not clean, but what has the Navy done? It's refused to have people go sample Parcel A. Why? It's dangerous. Cesium is dangerous. Why refuse to do it for the last year? Because they're afraid of what they might find. They're hoping this all goes away and nobody pays attention to it. The lives of everybody living here could be at jeopardy. We don't know because the Navy won't do the right thing. So, these areas, fake sampling, every single place. All the buildings you see. If you go up on the hillside, you'll be able to see over Hunter's Point, you'll see lots of buildings. All the scans of those buildings, faked. And the Navy plans on leaving them here so that somebody else can deal with it. So,
Are there any home sites in Area A?
There are many home sites in Area A. In fact, in these other areas where the fraud is absolutely known, they are planned for residential and commercial. So the Navy is planning, the city is planning to put houses up where we know the fraud took place. We know houses are going up right now where there could be dangerous cesium. So, and now,
my name is Dr. Ahimsa Porter Sumchai. I'm a child of this community. My father, George Porter, was a longshoreman at the shipyard. His contributing cause of death was asbestosis. I served as the attending physician in charge of the environmental registry for the Veterans Administration hospitals, and in 2003 I founded the radiological subcommittee of the Hunters Point Shipyard Restoration Advisory Board. I contributed comment to the draft historical radiological assessment, and many of you are familiar with my writings in the SF Baby newspaper. I'm not going to keep doing it any longer. I do want to commend you for being here. I want to acknowledge the important work that the NBC investigative team did to bring us here. I want to acknowledge that one of the pioneers in this effort, Marie Harrison, is not here today and may herself be suffering from environmental illness. I also want to clarify a few points. One, that again, the scientists of the Naval Radiological Defense Laboratories in the post-World War II era, as was the standard of the Atomic Energy Commission, poured radioactive substances, including radium-226, cesium-137, into the sanitary storm drains and sewer system. And that's part of the reason why we have such extensive radiation contamination. And then as a result of the advocacy of the RAB, the Navy agreed to pull those sanitary storm drains. They had planned to do that. I also want to emphasize again that Tetra Tech's internal investigation of 2,500 anomalous soil samples, the majority of which were proven to be fraudulent, is irrefutable, and you have that report. This is irrefutable evidence. I also want to make one point that I alone have made that I'd like you to hear, that the chief radiation control technician who was incriminated by virtue of the custody of command of these samples, his name was Ray Robertson, and he died during the investigation. And to the best of my knowledge, that death has not been investigated. We know he was exposed to radium-226 because he was concealing soil samples. You know, again, this is proven by virtue of the custody of these samples, and that I feel very, very strongly that we need to investigate this death. I feel very, very strongly that we need to take appropriate action to make sure that the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and the State Attorney General's office takes the steps that are necessary to investigate this as both a criminal and as a civil offense. Finally, I want to say that Green Action must be commended, you know, for their diligence in this matter. When I was in medical school, there was a plaque that hung in my bathroom. It said, "Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." And this has been an incredible unfolding to see people standing up and taking an appropriate stance. I would like to say that I am personally available to represent the community on the Tiger team that is currently meeting, that excludes the community, that excludes stakeholders in the development of this project, and is being organized by the developer in spite of the conflicts of interest that exist in that relationship. So thank you very, very much. I have a bibliography. You can search me. I have been writing on this topic again since 2003. And I also am fortunate enough to have a bibliography of the Navy's cleanup documents in my personal library that you're all welcome to access. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Michelle Pierce. I am a longtime resident of Bayview, and this particular press conference is very important because at a certain point, this city is going to have to stop putting property taxes ahead of the safety and well-being of these citizens. And we really need to step back and slow down. The consequences of us not taking these steps and really getting these messages out there, you need only look just north of here to the Millennial Road. We really need to fix this problem before it gets a problem.
Director with Literacy for Environmental Justice, a Bayview Hunters Point-based environmental justice organization. And it's a real honor to be here standing next to these fearless individuals. I want to commend their bold acts, and as individuals, in response to the toxic legacy and the industrial military complex of the shipyard itself, we see the response of our local community, our residents, our constituents, from right here in Bayview Hunters Point, nationally, globally. And in regards to the cleanup, there is a apparent lack of faith and an apparent point towards a cover-up. So really understanding that this cleanup potentially, as this saga of the toxic legacy of the shipyard in our neighborhood unfolds, is another cleanup. And it reminds me at a point numerous times marching down this street right here demanding for a right, for a healthy and clean and just future, and we're still here. And that is the bold acts that these individuals stand on, as well as myself and many others. There is a definite lack of confidence as we continue this proper cleanup, as we say. And, you know, just to keep it real, this needs to get all tied up. And what I mean by that is a few things. Transparency in this cleanup, some inclusion, and some equity. And that's what I mean by getting all tied up. Because too many times our community has been excluded. We have had a lack of transparency and definite, since the foundation of Imperial San Francisco, a lack of equity. And so I stand on those grounds in solidarity with all these folks here now, those came before us, and for, as it's been said by these honorable and fearless individuals, future generations. It is up to us to determine that. So this is just one part of the saga, many times that we've had to continue, and we will continue. And I, myself, on behalf of the future generations, demand that we get this tied up. And please remember that little acronym, transparency, inclusion, and equity. That's something that we've always demanded, and we've always fought for, and will continue to.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for sticking around for so long. My name is Bradley Angel, and I'm the Director of Green Action for Health and Environmental Justice. Thank you all for coming. The last thing I just want to share, you've heard a lot about the contamination. You've heard about Tetra Tech's malfeasance. You've heard about how the government ignored Tetra Tech's problems till the heat got too much. And what did the government do last fall after they had to put a halt to the transfers of land due to Tetra Tech's falsification of soil samples? And we learned from a letter Congresswoman Pelosi sent that a tiger team was being established of experts by the EPA and the Navy. Just one problem, that's not what happened. Despite the fact that in a meeting at the US EPA in December, the chief of the Superfund division assured us that, Enrique Manzanilla of the US EPA assured us that the tiger team was a federally led team of experts from various regulatory agencies to get to the bottom of the extent of Tetra Tech's problem and figure out what to do about it. They never included the community, the Green Action with a lot of our members here, in that tiger team, but it's worse. We have now found out through a Public Records Act request that it's not the US EPA leading the tiger team. It's not the Navy leading the tiger team. They're not setting an agenda. Guess who's leading the tiger team? The mayor's office, who's been in cahoots with the developer and the developer. Why is it that Lennar 5 Points is not only on the tiger team when the community's not, but we now have documents that are on our website and we have here today that show that the developer helped set the agendas for the tiger team meeting. This is a scandal. This is a cover-up. And today, I think we are ripping the cover off that cover-up. The truth is being told. And now we need our government to serve the people and protect the people and not corporate profits. So thank you so much for coming today. And again, thank you to the whistleblowers for your courageous stance. Thank you very much.